I'm back. And as some of you may recall from last year, I introduced myself as a recovering lawyer. And I have to unleash a little bit of that recovering lawyer persona right now. And start off with a full legal disclaimer. Nothing I say should in any way be interpreted as my discouraging you from enrolling your dental clients into leadership training programs. Particularly programs that will challenge the limiting beliefs so many of our dentist clients have with respect to their capacity to become great leaders. I think we've all heard some of those statements, right? Things like, I don't know anything about leadership. I can't learn how to be a great leader. Or my own personal favorite, dental school didn't teach me anything about leadership. So when I hear those concepts, I always like to remind dentists that in fact, they have learned a great deal about leadership because they've learned it from life. Life can be our greatest teacher of leadership skills. I mean, let's think about it now. What do you consider to be some of the great attributes of leaders that you know? And maybe who do you know that possess some of those leadership attributes? What was there about them? Anybody? Anybody? Nobody knows a great leader out there. Charisma. They elevate other people. Listener, love that. Empowering. Couldn't catch that one? Trust. Yes, absolutely. Sorry? Strong. What do those attributes have in common? They're always focused on other people. Great leaders are about being generous. They're about thinking of others. They're about, in one word, being kind. It's about leadership through kindness. And while we might sort of challenge the notion that perhaps some of our dentists are not exactly the greatest at being kind, the reality of it is we've all learned a great deal about kindness throughout the course of our lives, and we start it at the youngest of ages. Kids in grade school, in kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, nursery schools, daycares, they're always being impressed by the adult supervisors of the importance of kindness, of playing nice, of sharing their toys with the other kids, helping a friend clean up a mess, hugging a friend who feels sad. And that becomes the focus of what we teach our youngest of children up until a certain point. And then somewhere around grade 1, things kind of change a little bit. And we start to lose focus on kindness. And maybe Supertramp, one of my favorite classic rock groups, said it best in the Logical song. Because kids get to a certain age and we send them away, teach them how to be sensible, logical, and responsible and practical. And it's not that we start to teach them to be unkind. We just don't focus on kindness anymore. There's no grades given out for being kind when you're in school. But those seeds were planted in their brains at a young age, and they're just waiting to be nourished. And life does have a way to sometimes try to nourish those seeds, to get them to grow again. We just need to be paying attention. Sometimes we need to take the opportunity to reflect upon the stories of our lives and realize how much we've truly learned about kindness and leadership. Kindness, generosity, or as I like to say, just go ahead and spoil the heck out of your teams. Not just the friends and families in your life, spoil your patients, spoil your teams, and if you want to strike terror into the heart of a dentist, you tell them that the key to their developing greater leadership skills lies in them spoiling their teams. Say that, stand back, and watch the terror set in. Are you nuts, Sean? I can't get these people to stay in line as it is. They don't want to come into work at 8:30, that's too early. They can't stay till 4:30, that's too late. They need more vacation time. They need a longer lunch time. They need more time between patients. They need more time with patients. And now you're telling me that I have to become a greater leader by just letting them run the shop? I'm paying you for this advice? And I say, doctor, I'm asking you to spoil them. I'm not asking you to spoil them rotten. And if anyone thinks there isn't a distinction between those two concepts, I am here to tell you that there absolutely is, and I know this to be a fact because I am an expert in the field of spoilology. And you might wonder, how did I come to develop this expertise? I'm an only child. Hands up any other only children out there. You might get where I'm coming from on this, right? I stand before you as an only child who is proud to proclaim that I am spoiled. I am not, however, spoiled rotten. And to appreciate the distinction between those two concepts, it might help if I share with you a story from my own life that helped bring this leadership lesson home for me. Something that happened way back in 1979 when I was entering into my first year of high school, and my parents said to me, "You do well in school this year. You get an 85% average, we'll get you a new stereo system." That's pretty freaking spoiled. We weren't talking about a record player in a box, okay? We were talking about a full-on stereo system like they existed in 1979. Okay, you remember what those looked like? Denise, I know, you love your music. Steve Parker, I see your pictures on Facebook. I know you get it. You had your turntable on top of your cassette deck, on top of your AM/FM stereo receiver, on top of your amplifier, and you had to house it in this beautiful cabinet of wood and glass because this was big. It had to look good in the living room, right? And you got as much speaker wire as you could find, and you ran that wire underneath your rust-colored shag wall-to-wall carpeting we all had. And you got those speakers as far apart as you could so that you could really max out on that head-spinning stereo sound. And powerful? These things could turn out a wall of sound that brought true meaning to the expression that when I listened to Led Zeppelin, my neighbors listened to Led Zeppelin. Heavy duty? These things could take a beating and never show any sign of wear or tear. When your parents would go away for the weekend, leaving you with those strict instructions that there will be no parties in this house while we're away, young man. And somehow, Friday night, 50 or 60 of your closest friends showed up, totally uninvited, and you had to let them in. You didn't want them to stay out on the street and disrupt the neighborhood. So in they came, and the drinks got flowing, and the music got playing really loud, and people got dancing, and you're having a good time, and all of a sudden you look over, and there's some idiot jumped up on the speakers, dancing like a crazy person, and you're thinking, oh my God, he's gonna wreck the speakers, my parents are gonna kill me. You got over there, and you got him off as quick as you could, and you took a look, and it's like, thank God, not even a scuff. Parents had no idea what happened. That's what I heard anyway, like from the people that, threw those parties. Never happened at my house. But yeah, that stereo system was going to be mine for an 85% average. I thought, all right, let's get me a stereo. And for most of my courses, that 85% wasn't a big problem. For most. Then there was math. Grade 9 math. You were the bane of my existence. You with your algebraic equations where x squareds and y squareds just seemed to run circles around some equal sign without any rhyme, reason, or pattern that I could ever figure out. And I stayed after school for extra help with my teacher. I had a tutor come to the house on Sundays. Nothing made a difference. I just couldn't get that mark to go up any higher, and it was low enough that it was putting that 85% average in jeopardy. Got to the end of the year, nervously, when I got that final report card, I tore open that envelope, headed straight down to where that global average was, and there were those magical numbers staring me in the face. 84.4%. Now, my parents thought about getting me the stereo. Figured he did work hard, and He came really close. But in the end, they said to me, we had a deal. That deal was 85%. And you didn't make it. And accountability demands that we cannot get you that stereo this year. Accountability. That is your distinction between being spoiled and being spoiled rotten. By all means, I tell my clients, spoil the heck out of your teams. Give them the best technology that they can possibly find out there and the training they need to maximize their ability to use it effectively. Create a culture of safety, of diversity and inclusion that they will all feel comfortable in growing as team members and as people. Compensate them generously, but don't be afraid to set expectations for them and get them to agree upon those expectations. And if they fail to meet them, hold them accountable. It's not always easy to hold people accountable. I get that. It can be hard. People will be disappointed. I know I was disappointed missing out on that stereo for a friggin' 0.6%. But it had to agree it was fair. And if your team members can assess your dental clients as leaders by saying they were fair, they have paid them one of the highest compliments you can ever pay a leader. Spoil them? Just don't spoil them rotten. That's part of how we lead through kindness. Accountability and kindness are not inconsistent, but they can be difficult, I understand. It's not always easy to be kind. It's not always easy to be generous or empathetic or to be willing to be of service. I mean, we know all of our dental clients have patients that certainly make being of service a challenge for them. And I'm not talking about those patients that can be so abusive we really need to excuse them from the practice. I'm just talking about patients that can be kind of negative and just bring people down a bit. We all know the stories from our dental clients, right? We hear them talking about how, I had this wonderful weekend, got away from the city, out to some beautiful spa resort, just me and my spouse, disconnected, no internet, no TV. It was wonderful. It was like yoga and meditation in the morning, beautiful breakfasts, massages and facials. I came back into town completely recharged, couldn't wait to get into work. Rode into the office on a rainbow of sunshine and glitter that would have made our friend Dina Zoe so proud. Burst into the operatory and said, "Hello, you beautiful patient. It is so wonderful to see you today. How are you on this fine morning?" And they just looked up at me and said, "Oh, I wish I was anywhere but here right now. I hate coming to the dentist." And I get it. It's not easy to then feel generous and kind to someone who's just brought us down. But somehow, as a leader, we have to try to find that energy and that strength. And it's not easy when our own life situations can be weighing us down, to find the ability to be empathetic. But sometimes when you can do it, you'll find that life pays you back in ways you can't put into a dollar figure. And man, did I get a reminder of that from another one of my own life stories that took place just back in December 2020. Heading into our first COVID Christmas. Excuse me for a sec. It was the first Saturday in the month of December. And I think we can all recall what the world was like at that point in time. Let's face it, we were stressed. It was a tough period of time for all of us, and it felt like all of us were balancing on a knife's edge. And I woke up this Saturday to an email, fourth email I'd gotten just like it that week. And it was from one of my most longest standing clients. And it said to me, "Sean, we'd like to thank you for your years of service. You've been instrumental in our success over those years. There's no way we could have achieved what we did without your help. But unfortunately, we've made the decision to sell our practice to a large corporate DSO. And we won't be needing your services anymore." And I looked at that, and I thought of the 3 other emails I got like it that week, and I thought, man, my revenue has taken a hit. And it just started me on a path that Saturday that I was in one foul mood. And it didn't help that my 2 teenage kids chose that day to be teenage kids at their finest, nor that my wife suddenly realized it's now in the month of December and she is one who finds Christmas stressful at the best of times, and she's realizing that she hasn't done any of her Christmas shopping yet, and we're talking about the potential of lockdowns again, so she's in panic mode and drags me out to the shopping mall with her, despite the fact, hey, I've done my shopping. And if you want to get me into a bad mood, just take me into a crowded shopping mall around Christmas time. Guaranteed, I will be ugly. Got to the end of the day, and I was just fuming. Had to lock myself in the basement, get away from the family. I was so angry, they did not want to be around me. I was so agitated, I couldn't even sit still. I was pacing all over the floor in the basement, wearing out a trail along the path in the tile, and I happened to go by my computer screen just in time to see a message pop up on Facebook Messenger, and it said, "Hey, Sean, you done anything since high school days to keep up those theater skills you had back then?" Because I always used to do the school plays back then. And I looked at that message in my foul and ugly mood, and I just blew a gasket. I sat down, couldn't ignore it. Should have just ignored it, right? No, I had to sit down and give this person a piece of my mind. I mean, she was just a Facebook friend, someone I kind of knew in high school, but we weren't really close. Everyone have friends like that on social media? You wonder, how did we wind up connecting, but you feel like you kind of have to? So, man, I sat down and I was going to give her a piece of my mind. "What are you doing sending me such a stupid message at this hour on a Saturday night? It's 8 o'clock, I'm tired, I've had a crappy day, I barely even remember you from high school, and you send me a dumb message like this? Leave me alone." Oh, man, it was vicious. Before I hit send, if you know me, I had to proofread my grammar, because if I'd have sent out a message with bad grammar, I would have been that much more over the edge. And when I proofread it, it said, "High school's been a while. Why do you ask?" Not quite the venomous message I had running through my mind, but I decided I would give her one free pass. If she dared respond, there would be no more Mr. Nice Guy. Sure enough, those 3 dots on the bottom of the screen start bouncing. You know, the ones that tell you they're reading and they're now typing. And I thought, okay, you are getting it now. Loosened up those fingers so that they could just fly over that keyboard with all the adjectives I was going to be using on her. Up pops her message and it says, "My friend has a 10-year-old son who's autistic, not very communicative, and he's in panic mode thinking Santa Claus won't be coming this year for Christmas." Uh-oh. He's gotten a hold of his mother's phone, and he's trying to call Santa at the North Pole. He's pushing random numbers, and occasionally he connects through to someone. And his mom has to then pry that phone loose from his fingers while he screams in the background. And she's embarrassed, having to apologize to some complete stranger for interrupting their evening. She is at her wit's end. Would I be willing to be Santa Claus on a call with them? Crap. The truth is, no. I don't want to be Santa Claus, okay? I've had my own crappy day. And how dare this complete stranger walk into my room, burn up all the oxygen of my own self-pity with a day that was worse than mine? I sat down at my computer to prepare my response. "Sorry to hear about your friend, but I had a crappy day and I'm in a crappy mood and I'm not feeling very jolly." Santa Claus is supposed to be jolly. How can I be a good Santa Claus if I'm not feeling very jolly? I proofread that message, and it said, "Absolutely. Here's my number. Have them call me." I got a little bit of information about the boy from my friend before the call came. All she could tell me was his name, but that was at least enough so that when that phone rang, I pressed the response button, brought that phone up to my mouth, and in my not-so-jolly mood, gave out my best, "Hello, ho, 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 ho! You've reached the North Pole. This is Santa. Am I speaking with Alex?" And in those few seconds, I could hear an air of agitation releasing from that little boy's lungs as he instantly calmed down, thinking he was finally connected to Santa. "I'm so happy you called me, Alex. I wanted to reach out to you and let you know that you have absolutely nothing to worry about. Santa Claus is fully vaccinated and he's cleared to spread Christmas cheer all over the world. And since I have you on the phone, what is it that you would like for Christmas this year?" A question I asked with a lot of trepidation, because I didn't know the answer. And what if what he wanted was something his mom couldn't afford? But I thought, Santa always asks what kids want for Christmas. And if this call was going to be authentic, didn't I need to ask? So I just hoped for the best. And then I heard the only two words that came from his lips in that conversation that I was able to understand. Play-Doh. All he wanted for Christmas was a new Play-Doh. "Well, Alex, because you've been such a good boy this year, Santa can promise you there will be plenty of Play-Doh under your tree. But I have to go now. There is lots of work to be done before getting ready for Christmas, which is just around the corner. But let me wish you and your mom a very Merry Christmas!" I hung up the phone, and I just sat there, totally drained of energy. Message came from my friend, said it worked. Alex has calmed down, and his mom cannot thank you enough. I read that message, thought about how much I didn't want to help at the start, and I just broke down and cried. And I sent a message back telling her she doesn't need to thank me. In fact, I'm the one who needs to be thanking her. I was having an awful day until this woman walked into my life. A woman with so much love for her child, so much courage, and yet so much desperation that she would entrust the well-being of her child into the hands of someone she didn't know. I have to thank her for her courage. I need to honor her. Those clients or patients that don't like coming to the dentist, they're not saying it to bring our dentist down. They're scared. Going to the dentist for them is legitimately a scary prospect. And I know it's not easy to constantly be told over and over by patient after patient how much they hate being there. But what if our dentists could be those leaders that step forward and view that answer from a different perspective, one that emphasized the empathy that great leaders possess, and rather than allow themselves to be brought down by it, look at that and say, but you're here. Despite that fear, you are entrusting me with an aspect of your personal health care that is so intimate, and I thank you for that courage. This patient could be that one who hasn't been to a dentist for years. Maybe they haven't even smiled in longer because they're embarrassed to show a mouth with teeth that are miscolored, cracked, broken, chipped, missing, crooked. Their smile causes them nothing but pain. And your dentist client gets to embark on a journey with them now. A journey that culminates with one day they are passing them a mirror, allowing them to look into a mirror and seeing a smile that makes them look up and for the first time in forever say, I'm beautiful. That is the power you can have. That must be an incredible feeling, is it not, doctors? Absolutely. That is the power you can possess through leadership, through kindness. It's not always easy to be kind. And wouldn't it be great if kindness could be taught to us in some wonderful dental school course with a curriculum that lays out every step along the way? But life provides lessons in a bit more of a messy way. And we need to be the ones then that are willing to do what it takes to learn from those lessons, learn from those stories. So when your dentist expresses doubt about their capacity to be a leader, encourage them to look back on the stories of their own lives. Help them to realize just what it is they've learned about kindness and leadership from the time they were the youngest of children. It doesn't matter that it didn't come from a dental school course or a continuing education program. It came from something better. It came from life. And for so much of us, dentistry is just part of life. An important part of who we are, but still, it is there as a part of what we do. And we can take those life lessons and apply them into the world of dentistry, because at the end of the day, when we truly sit down and realize what we can learn from one aspect to the other, we can realize that life truly does imitate dentistry. Thank you.